This is Tottenham Hotspur heritage. Manchester City 0. Tottenham Hotspur 2. This is what we do. We beat Manchester City. Are we going to win the league? Are we going to win the league? I don't know. We've got as good a chance as anybody. 5 goals scored, 0 goals conceded. I have that early season giddiness that you get when you win the first couple of games of the season. And I want to come at you first of all in this video with one quote. Thomas Frank has done his job today. The fans have done their job. The players certainly did their job. Daniel Levy, over to you. 8 days left. Do your job. Put this squad in a position to do something important this season. That's all I'm going to say. But, I mean, all the focus on today, because turning up at the Etihad after last week's performance from Manchester City, all of the different problems they pose, all of those different attack threats that they have in attack, the midfield, defensively, to turn up and do that to them. We were comfortable. We were comfortable today. The tactical performance from Thomas Frank, the individual performance from some of the players, because it's all well and good having a tactical idea, sending a team out onto that pitch. It's then about winning duels. It's about winning your individual battles. And every player to a man did that today. And that is delightful. Absolutely delightful. Spectacular afternoon viewing. And we're top of the league. Like I said, long may that continue. But I wanted to start off in this video by talking about Thomas Frank, because there were doubts when he came into Spurs, replacing Ange Postecoglou, how bad it got last season, and then the Europa League win, the best moment that we've all had in 17 years, however long. And to come in, win the first 2 games of the season, the performance in the Super Cup as well, so unlucky to miss out on that trophy before the season had even started. He is proving the doubters wrong, and if anybody is left doubting that this guy isn't a top manager, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you other than just look at that plan today. Look at how he outclassed Pep Guardiola. Look at how he set that team up. It was outstanding in every way. And, you know, the way that he spoke in the build-up to the game, I was so confident that we were going to go there with a game plan, with a plan to shut City out, with a plan to be competitive. As we saw it so many times last season, we weren't. And that was a beautiful thing. And listening to him in the build-up, he's such a good talker. He's such a good speaker, such a good trainer, so passionate. And the game plan was just executed perfectly, which just shows clear communication. He's a great communicator. He's able to get a game plan across to a set of players that aren't too familiar with his ways so early on. You know, you talk about a manager taking time to settle in, etc. Not Thomas Frank. Not Thomas Frank, clearly. And look, there's going to be bumps along the road this season, but I'm so confident that this man is the man to take us back up that league and lead us in the right direction. And you're seeing that already. 2 different types of games in the first 2 games of the season. 2 games Tottenham looked incredibly comfortable in, and 2 wins. No goals conceded. Thomas Frank, you are the man. I absolutely love you. And a lot of people thought we were going to go in with a back 5 today. I thought that. I spoke about that in our preview. We went in with a back 4. People said before the game, well, that's interesting. A back 4. How's the midfield going to work with Paulinho, Bentancur, Sarr? It was all perfect, to be honest. I mean, look, we conceded chances, etc. But for the majority of the game, I felt comfortable, and I felt like we had a manager who was in control of everything out there on the pitch, and players who understood exactly what their role was. And that is obviously the sign of a brilliant manager. But on to the game. Before we get into the moments in the game, I want to talk about the tactics, because, I mean, the tactical setup was just outstanding. The midfield was the first thing I wanted to talk about, because, I mean, that midfield performance today, I thought Bentancur had a sloppy opening 20 minutes, but then the way he grew into the game after that, he had an outstanding performance. João Paulinho in there obviously scored the goal, but just the ground that he covers in there. There was one moment late on in that second half where the ball fell to Nathan Ake, I believe, on the edge of the penalty area, and he looked like he was going to get a shot away on goal. João Paulinho flung himself almost across the entirety of the penalty area to block the shot. That just shows you exactly what his game is all about. Off the ball, defensive performance, outstanding. Him and Bentancur, first to everything, winning their duels in there, not letting Ray and Cherky have a second's rest in there. When Omar Marmoush drifted more central, Paulinho and Bentancur straight at him, snapping onto him, closing the spaces, closing the passing lanes in here, not allowing Erling Haaland to come in and receive the ball in these areas. I mean, he did once, and he was able to hurt us in that situation where he played Omar Marmoush through, and Marmoush got that shot off on goal. Vicario, a couple of big saves, but I mean, Pat Sarr, the star of the show, really. I mean, the engine this kid has got is absolutely ridiculous. And I call him a kid, but I actually wanted to talk about that because I think the way that his performances are maturing as he is getting older. 22 years old now. He is no longer that skinny kid that we bought from Metz. He is now a fully fledged member of this first team squad, and somebody who has such an impact whenever he plays. And he has started the season. I think he's been our best player at the start of this season. Pre-season, the Super Cup, and our first 2 Premier League games, I think he's been our best and most consistent performer. He's been absolutely brilliant. And in that sort of advanced midfield role that he was in today, there's such demands on that position. I don't think people realise, because of how athletically gifted Sarr is, and technically gifted as well, how difficult that job is to sort of link the defensive side of the game to the attacking side of the game, to carry the ball, to choose the right pass, to choose the moments to spring on the press, and choose the moments to sit in, find men, track men. Honestly, every time a City player, especially Tijani Reinders, picked up the ball, They had no more than 3 yards of space before Pape Matar Sarr was immediately on them wherever they were. It was a joke. He's absolutely everywhere, and he must be just such a nightmare to play against. And today he was outstanding, not letting Reinders have a second on the ball, not letting Reinders drift in behind him, find those spaces that he was finding against Wolves and that he wanted to find today. Tijani Reinders was getting so frustrated and was making sloppy mistakes because of how good Pape Matar Sarr was, Bentancur was when he stepped up onto him, because of how little time that midfield gave him. That was one of the most pleasing things with the performance today, how compact that midfield was, but also how dynamic they were, how they were able to sort of choose their moments to step up the pitch and press. When we were pressing City's goalkeeper, they were all playing high up. When Reinders, Cherky, whoever it was dropping in to receive the ball, they were right there with them. Whatever third of the pitch they were in, they were right there with them. And the midfield completely won the battle today. And 9 times out of 10, if you win the midfield battle in a football match, as we all know, you win the game. And that is exactly what happened today. I mean, so many other pleasing elements to the performance as well. I thought, because this midfield area and defensive area had to be so compact through the middle, City weren't able to play through the middle. So often they were going out wide, whether it was to Oscar Bob on the right-hand side or Marmoush on the left-hand side. I thought Spence and Pedro Porro's 1v1 defensive performances, Porro had a difficult job. He really did. Marmoush isolated him a couple of times in that first half 1v1, and there were a couple of times when Porro got the better of him and a couple of times when Marmoush got the better of him. But Porro is not a Jed Spence. He's not incredibly tall and fast and strong and a brilliant 1v1 defender like Jed Spence on the other side. But I thought, for sort of how he's limited in that way, I thought he did brilliantly today, and I think that's the side of his game that's been really, really improving. And I thought the pleasing thing was, especially in that second half, Mohamed Kudus, the work rate, unbelievable, dropping in to make it a 2v1 so often, helping out Pedro Porro, not leaving him isolated 1v1 as we saw so many times, and isolated 2v1 as we saw so many times last season. And Pedro Porro, I hope he gave Mohamed Kudus a big hug in that changing room afterwards. And when Doku came on, Kudus was literally coming from these areas here. Doku would receive the ball, he would sprint back like his life depended on it to make it a 2v1 against Jeremy Doku. And that is the work rate that we need in this side, that you need against a team like City to beat them and to sort of have those minor advantages on them. And that was what we were doing. We were doubling up 2v1. Jed Spence on the other side, he doesn't need a partner. He doesn't need Brennan Johnson to drop in and make it 2v1. Johnson, of course, does do that, but Jed Spence isn't getting beaten. Oscar Bob so many times trying to go on the outside, trying to come on the inside. Nothing was working for him because Spence is so imposing and so dominant in this area of the pitch, the area of the pitch that he has and is tasked to defend. I genuinely think that Jed Spence right now is undroppable from this Tottenham Hotspur team. The way that he started the season, I know that Destiny Doggy is coming back and it's a brilliant option to have to rotate them, and I'm sure that there'll be injuries, etc. at points where we'll only have 2 fullbacks available and we might have to change it up, whatever. But right now, if they're both fully fit, Jed Spence is the starter on that left-hand side, because Jed Spence right now is undroppable in the form that he's displayed at the start of this season. And I love a Doggy, and there'll be games where a Doggy comes in, there'll be games where Spence comes in. They'll share minutes in that position, and that's a beautiful problem to have. There's no real such thing as a first choice 11 anymore because of the amount of games, especially when the Champions League starts up. And then Van de Ven or Romero finally in this defensive. I mean, I thought Romero especially. If today doesn't prove to you how important these two are, honestly, please, one fully fit season of those two starting 38 games together in the Premier League is all I ask. Please, is that too much to ask? Please, God, just make it happen, because the box defense, I mean, Van de Ven's block from Foden in that second half, ridiculous. I think his box defending is something that's really improved in his game, actually, almost since Thomas Frank's come in. I mean, Romero, just the art of defending is ridiculous. He's one of the best defenders in Europe. I mean, everybody should be aware of this by now. Everybody should know this. The maturity that he showed. That yellow card he got as well, absolute joke. The only reason he got that yellow card was because it was Romero and he was sliding on the ground. So the referee went, well, it's got to be a yellow card then. When he won the ball cleanly and didn't touch the man, absolute joke. But apart from that, he was faultless. Superb, spot on, brilliant defensive performance. Van de Ven sweeping up anything that got in behind Spence. Romero, the same with Pedro Porro, but also box defending, not allowing Haaland to sniff really. Haaland maybe had one chance in the entire game, which we're going to touch on in a minute, which was the only time really that he got left a little bit free. But a player with Haaland's movement, who's that physically imposing as well, is going to find one or two opportunities in the game. He always does. And the attack as well. I mean, Mohamed Kudus, the way that he carried the ball on transition, the way that he held the ball up in these areas, linked up with Paulinho, Porro, Sarr inside of him. And, you know, there were a couple of times where he tried a bit too much and lost the ball. But that's what you want. I want Kudus to try too much. You know what I mean? That's exactly what I want from him. Brennan Johnson obviously took his goal superbly well, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But outside of that, I think he made the wrong decision. There was a 4-on-2 in the second half where he could have slipped in Pat Matasar in this area here and he chose to shoot. And it's just those little decisions that Brennan Johnson makes outside of the penalty area when we are breaking, when he has to make a pass or, you know, make the right decision, which I'm still, you know, it's still just not really there in his game. And that's something that can definitely be worked upon, of course. But I also think that that's something where if an Odebear comes in, etc., he probably gives you a little bit more of that. And it's also why you'd probably want to make a signing that can play on that left-hand side as well. But, you know, that's not trying to take away anything from Johnson's performance. He worked so hard on that left-hand side, took his goal really well, was a threat, was a constant option on the transition, linked up with Spence a lot better than he did against Burnley. But obviously in this game state, it's easier for those two. And Richarlison as well. Again, the assist, the perfect timing of the run in behind for Johnson's goal. His work rate, his hold-up play. His hold-up play was a bit loose in the first 25 minutes of the game. But again, after that, improved so much. The ball's really sticking to him. The aggression he's got, you know, the fight that he's got in him to bully those centre-halves and to really make a nuisance of himself. And the versatility he's shown in his game, making those runs off the last shoulder too. It is really, really pleasing to see. And obviously didn't get many opportunities in front of goal this afternoon, but that will come. And we see how he takes those kind of opportunities when he's in this kind of form, when he's sharp like this against Burnley, of course. Now, the one thing I also wanted to touch upon was the referee. Now, I don't like to dwell too much upon refereeing performances, especially when we win, but how James Trafford stayed on the pitch from that challenge on Kudus, I will never know. Literally came at him with his knee, clattered into Kudus. The ball hits his arm as well, and it's not like he won the ball. The ball hit him as he made a challenge, and he clatters Kudus. No idea how he stayed on the pitch. No idea how the ref didn't spot that foul on Porro as well, but to be fair, I thought there could have been a penalty when Mickey van der Ven fouled Oscar Bob with that chance that they had in the second half. So, you know, maybe it sort of evened itself out in the end. But, I mean, I don't know how James Trafford was on the pitch, but kind of lucky he was for one of the goals, really, I guess. But, you know, the subs as well came on and made, you know, a good impact. I thought Solanke was good when he came on. Obviously, Danso only came on for about 5 minutes, but Bergvall as well, Odebear, you know, the subs were good too. And just such a pleasing performance, such pleasing sort of diversity in how we defended as well. Sometimes we were sitting off a little bit, allowing City to have a bit more of the ball, almost like taking a break. And then sometimes we were pushing so high sometimes and pressing them and really causing them issues. And that is obviously what led, well, I mean, we'll talk about our first goal in a minute, but that is what led to our second goal. Pat Matasar pressing up on Nico Gonzalez. I don't know what James Trafford is doing. He's got time here, you know, play the ball to Ruben Diaz, whatever, but I don't know what he's doing. But Pat Matasar pressing so high. You see how high Paulinho and Bentancur are there. See how deep Ryan Cherki is dropping to try and get the ball. And the passing there obviously intercepted by Pat Matasar. João Paulinho fires it in. Just way too easy of a goal for Tottenham to score. But brilliant pressing, brilliant setup. And City were panicking all afternoon when they were trying to play out. And we were pressing so intelligently. But then we also had the legs to get back. You know, City did play through our break. It wasn't like they then had a 4-on-2 like you'd see at times last season. If our press was played through, then they would just have so many open spaces to attack. We were getting back really well. We were defensively sound. And we were dropping back into our block, and then again choosing our moments to spring when we won the ball back, and that was super pleasing. And that's what led to our second goal, which was obviously hugely pleasing. Our first goal, I mean, it was kind of a bit of a hopeful ball forward from Pedro Porro, a good run from Pat Matasar into that channel, and you see immediately Richarlison is on his bike. He's, you know, perfect timing of the run, on the last shoulder, ready to get him behind. Brennan Johnson is alive to this situation as well. And you look at where Rico Lewis starts in this scenario, where it actually ends up with Brennan Johnson getting into this position, Richarlison obviously squaring it. And do you know what? It's a brilliant finish from Johnson. The ball's behind him, as you can see in that frame, and he does well to sort of angle his body to sort of almost take the ball in stride and fire it into that bottom corner. Trafford gets a hand on it, but too much power on the ball. He lets the sort of pace of the pass dictate the power of his shot, and it was just a nice finish, and you know, really, really pleasing. And then obviously the second goal, like I said. I mean, there was this one chance for Haaland, like I said. Probably, I mean, there was the one where Haaland sort of did amazingly well in midfield and then slipped in Marmoush. But this was the chance, you know, 30 seconds left of the first half in additional time, in the 6th minute of additional time. And Erling Haaland has a header from, what, 5 yards out that he puts over the bar. And in any other game, you would imagine he scored. I don't actually think Haaland's a great header of the ball, you know. He had another one in the second half that I thought he could have done better with, where he headed it back away from the goal, which was, again, bizarre. But again, in that situation, should have done so much better. And that's probably the one time that Romero switched off and was caught out by Haaland, because that was his man in that situation. And, you know, we're lucky that we didn't concede from that. But, I mean, like I said, Thomas Frank, superb. The Tottenham team, superb. The versatility in our play, dual winners, the athletes that we have on the pitch, the technical quality that we displayed as well, to look after the ball and try and hurt City, and, well, not try, hurt City on the break and constantly have them thinking that there was a threat going the other way. It was superb, and it's as good a Tottenham performance against City as you will see in the past couple of years, despite the amount of times that we have just beaten them. And I'm so pleased. I'm so behind this project. Like I said at the start of the video, Daniel Levy has 8 days to make this a serious season for Spurs, because the only thing that can undo it is injuries and a lack of planning and a lack of squad depth. Because right now our squad is still relatively thin. We don't have those players in attacking positions that we need. The number 10, obviously that will come into effect more against other sides, you know, sides that are sitting off us a little bit more, and we still need to do business. And if we do the business, I mean, if we give Thomas Frank the tools to go and make this a successful season for Tottenham Hotspur, I have no doubt that we can do that. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you thought of the game. Obviously, if you are new here, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you like the video, subscribed as well. It would really help me out. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Adios.